Hey art nerds, we are reaching the end of our How to Draw Flowers series. Today we're going to draw a beautiful vibrant marigold working from a couple of different reference images. So this is one of them. We have another one coming up. It was difficult for me to see all the details in our marigold, so I wanted to get a couple of different references to work from. I'm going to have a link down in the description to the original sources as well as links to the materials we're going to be using today. And here is our third one so that you guys can actually see the marigold buds and the leaves that we draw later on in the image. So these are the materials we're going to be using. We have a Blick Studio watercolor sketchbook, a mechanical pencil with H lead, and a Sakura Pigma FB. In our last installment, I showed you guys how to draw a sunflower. We're going to have 18 total flowers in our How to Draw Flowers series, and I hope you guys will join me soon for our How to Paint Flowers series that's coming up. So we start with a circular shape, and then we draw another circle in the middle, so it kind of looks like a donut. Now the thing about marigolds is they have a lot of really tiny petals, but you guys should be used to that by now because we've drawn all sorts of complex, complicated flowers. So really the thing about the marigold is to try not to get too caught up in all the detail. Try to keep things simple and try to work slowly. So we're just kind of going around in a spiral shape, drawing our petals. And I'm working really heavily from our reference image. And I also want to point out that this video has been time-lapsed by about 2. So this is faster than I actually draw. And as I've said in many of our other How to Draw Flower videos, you don't have to draw this fast. No one expects you to draw this fast. It's not natural to draw this fast if you don't draw this fast. So don't worry about that. Take your time, pay attention to your reference, and just draw at your own pace. So we've gotten our petals well underway. You guys can see I'm trying to balance all the way around the flower. I'm not just drawing one side of the flower first. And I'm working my way from the center of the flower down to the bottom of the flower. And I'm trying to make sure I pay attention to the areas where the petals kind of curl in on themselves and overlap, because that adds some visual interest, that adds an organic feeling, and this flower starts to feel more real. So we have our base flower just about finished. I teach you guys, or I have tutorials on how to draw loads of different things here on this channel, from volumetric drawing, where I show you guys how to draw just about anything, to drawing people, to drawing faces, to figure drawing lessons. I also have lessons on drawing perspective, and then I have a whole, actually I have many, whole series on drawing comics. So if you guys are interested in learning how to draw, I've got a lot of tutorials here on the channel to help you do just that. So now we're moving on to the marigold buds. I decided to add these to add some interest. You guys probably have noticed that a lot of our flower illustrations have buds also featured in. And we start with kind of an oval shape, and for the smaller bud that's less bloomed, or not as far along as the other one, it has kind of like a little crown of circles or ovals at the top. And then for the bud in the background that's a little bit more developed, we start to draw in just some of the petals kind of crenellating at the top. The stems on a marigold seem to be very thin for the flower itself, and the leaves come off of the sides kind of farther down along the stem, and you have like 3 leaves, or perhaps each leaf is split into 3, and there's 1 on each side. Alright, so we're going to ink our illustration with a Sakura Pigma FB brush pen. On that note, I have a lot of inking tutorials here on this channel, and I've talked a lot about how much I love the Sakura Pigma FB, how useful I think brush pens are, how they can give you a variety of line weight. So I'm not going to go too much into that for this one, since you guys have probably heard it 15 times already. And I'm starting with the objects that are overlapping. So the foreground bud, some of the leaves that are going to overlap the stem on the marigold. Then we move on into the petals, and I start at the petals at the center. Well, actually, I'm starting by drawing the pistils and the stamens and all the little pollen, and those were taken from a second reference image. since I wanted to include that. Then I start drawing my petals, and I'm adding more detail at this stage than I did at the sketch stage. But of course, if you're kind of newer to drawing, what I would recommend is you add as much detail as you need, and that way you're not relying on your inks. But the more practice you get, the more you do this, the easier it's going to be. And then I'm adding these striations, these very thin lines, applying very little pressure to my brush pen, coming from the bottom of the petal and going towards the edges of the petal. And that's to kind of denote, if you guys look at the reference image, the marigolds that I chose tend to have kind of like a brown or a dark orange center. And adding this at this stage is actually helping me keep my individual petals delineated. They don't become this like just huge mass of petals, which is something that's really important to denote when you're drawing these kind of complicated flowers. You want it to be something you can understand later on when you're painting it. You want it to be something that viewers, that people who are looking at your art can understand and can parse. So we're just going to take this really slow, working our way around the flower and then working our way towards the bottom of the flower. And I'm working really heavily from the reference. The reference is just off screen on a secondary computer screen. I recommend when you guys are drawing things you're not so familiar with, or even if you've drawn a lot of flowers but you're drawing a new type of flower, having that reference and going by what you see rather than what you think you see, and then getting additional reference if you can't quite tell what's going on rather than making it up. That's really, really helpful. It's not a crutch. There's nothing wrong with using resources as you need them, and it's not going to make you a weaker artist. It's going to make you a stronger artist because you're building up this mental library of images and how to draw them correctly, which is important. So we're making some progress on our marigold. This is one of those that it's not so difficult. The problem is you may confuse yourself with all these curly petals, and it does take a while. So you want to give yourself the time you need. Realistically, this took me about 15 minutes, but if you're a little bit newer to drawing, or if you draw a little bit slower, or if you need more time, feel free to block out an hour if you have it to do this. And for me, drawing flowers is very relaxing. It's very calming. Maybe put on some chill music or listen to some ASMR or a favorite TV show that you've seen a million times. Whatever helps you get into the creative zone, whatever helps you kind of just focus on what you're doing and take a moment to breathe. That's going to really help with your art because it allows your brain to kind of go into autopilot and you're not trying to tune out the world necessarily. So I've really enjoyed this How to Draw Flowers series with you guys. The way I pursued it is every day I would draw and record one flower. Then every couple days I would record the voiceovers for those flowers. So it's been a very sedate process for me as well. It's been a very enjoyable series. And I feel like I've learned a lot drawing all these different flowers rather than my usual go-tos that I pull time and time again, like daisies and roses. I draw a lot of those, cherry blossoms, strawberry flowers, those kind of flowers I tend to draw a lot. So for this, I really wanted to draw a wide variety of different flowers, and I really wanted to be able to share that with you guys. So now that this series is finished, I'm actually going to scan the line arts for all 18 of these flowers, and I'm going to have them available on my Gumroad, and I'm also going to have them available for my patrons. And this is going to be great for people who want to paint along in the Learn How to Paint Flowers series that's going to be coming up. And it's also a way to affordably support this channel. You get something, I get something, and just kind of focus on the painting aspect rather than having to focus on the drawing aspect. Now, I mean, I love the drawing aspect, obviously, and I'm showing you guys how to do that, and that's important to me. I definitely want you to practice, but I do know that sometimes it gets frustrating to have to draw it and paint it and draw it and paint it and draw it and paint it as you're figuring it out, to have to do it multiple times. So that's why I want to make the line arts available for those people who just want to paint along with the painting tutorial and they don't want to focus on drawing at at that particular time. So there will be more information here on this channel and over on my Patreon when I'm ready to start releasing that series. But I'm really looking forward to it, just as I really enjoyed doing this series. So we have one more flower drawing tutorial left. I'm going to show you guys how to draw a Snapdragon, which is not a flower I encounter a whole lot. I don't think they grow so well in the South. So that's going to be kind of a newer one for me, and I'm looking forward to sharing it with you guys. It's already recorded. I've already drawn it. So I know what's going to happen in the future, but wow, can't even talk. I'm looking forward to sharing that with you guys in our next update with this. And I hope you guys have enjoyed this series. I hope it was helpful. I hope it was useful. I hope it was informative for you guys. I still do want to hear if there's flowers that you want to learn how to draw. Do let me know in the comments, because I enjoyed doing this series so much. I would not have a problem picking it up and doing it again. And I do have some other how to draw very specific things tutorials coming up in the future, like fruits and vegetables and desserts and foods. Just the sort of things that I like and the sort of things that I enjoy drawing. Okay, so we have the base flower drawn. Now we can move on to the stem and the background flower. Now you'll notice that the stem coming out of the marigold, it's kind of like a trumpet shape. It's wider and then it narrows very quickly. So we did a little cast shadow on that stem just to kind of create a sense of depth. And now we're moving on to the bud in the background. And this one has more of a crown shape. You guys can see we have kind of these teardrop shapes going on at the top, and then they enter these long oval shapes. Then we have a little bit of crenellation where the marigold flower is peeking out of the sepals below. Now for the stem, you want to try and draw out that line using a single stroke if possible. So you want to give yourself room to actually ink it. Alright, so that's our finished marigold. I hope you guys had fun, and I hope to see you guys again in our next video. Have a great day, guys. Bye!